What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge podcast with Max and myself. Today, we are coming to you with our way too early NBA All Star predictions, which is always one of my favorite topics to discuss. Shout out the players who are off to an exceptional start to the season. There has been some changes to the All Star format this year, which we will get into. But before that, a couple pieces of NBA news. First one on the docket being that James Harden, in the midst of the Clippers' miserable season, is still giving their fans something to cheer about. Because last night, he passed Carmelo Anthony to move up to 10th all time on the NBA's all time leading scoring chart, which for an all time great scorer like James Harden, definitely something worth celebrating, definitely a notable accomplishment. Max, anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that James Harden's one of the greatest scorers of all time, and he deserves to be in that top 10 just with how good he was in his prime and how good he is playing right now. I'm sure we'll talk about him a little later on in this episode, but James Harden has been amazing this season, and I'm glad to see that, in my opinion, a top 10 scorer of all time is now in the top 10 of points all time. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, prime Houston Rockets James Harden is one of the most feared isolation scorers in NBA history, right? So him being in the top 10 all time in scoring kind of only feels right. Next up on the list of news, LeBron James, another all time great scorer who has scored in double digit points for over a decade and a half worth of regular season games, over 1,200 straight games. Unfortunately for LeBron, that streak is broken against the Toronto Raptors. The last play of the game, LeBron was sitting on 9 points. He had a chance to go for a bucket, which would give him double digit points. Instead, he kicked the ball out to Rui Hachimura, who hit a game winning three for the Lakers. So LeBron, he lost a streak, but at the end of the day, he still made the right play to help his team win. But what are your thoughts on this truly historic run coming into an end for LeBron?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I didn't think I would see. I thought he was going to retire with that streak intact, I'm pretty sure. And I think it's the only time it'll happen this year. I expect LeBron to bounce back. And he made the right play in the end, but had a rough night shooting and just dug himself too big of a hole to climb out of. So I expect LeBron to score 10 plus the rest of the year, probably the rest of his career. Definitely an anomaly.
Yeah, well, I mean, the following game yesterday, he put up 29. So, I mean, like you said, it is an anomaly. LeBron is still going to do LeBron James things. It just 1,200 straight games. I thought I might never see the day where he scores below 10. The next active longest streak right now is Kevin Durant, who I think is at like 96. So that should help put LeBron's consistency into perspective. Next, but we'll get into our way too early All Star predictions now. As I mentioned, the format is a little bit different. Adam Silver announced some changes this offseason. The voting criteria is still the same, where there will be five starters selected from each conference, voted on by the fans, by the coaches, and by the media. Difference this year is that the starters and the reserves are positionless. So you could have a starting lineup of five guards or five centers. That doesn't matter. And despite the voting still being separated by conference, Adam Silver is going to divide the pool into 16 American players and 8 international players. There will be 2 US based team, 1 international based team, and they will play in a kind of round robin group of 3 when a winning team of 8 will emerge by the end of it. And if the pool doesn't add up to exactly 16 US born and 8 international, then Silver chooses a couple of replacements. Um, yeah, before we get into that, what are your thoughts on the new All Star format? Do you like the changes? Do you wish that they would just go back to a more traditional East versus West?
I like the changes from the perspective of removing positions because I think basketball right now is a very positionless sport. I think you have guards and you have big men. I'll just throw that. And I think that's kind of the only positions right now that are playing. I think each individual position is so diverse now, and so many guys can do so many different things that I think it's hard to group all stars by position. So I'm really glad they got rid of that. As far as the round robin, I really enjoy like a full game for the All Star game. So I'm not sure how 12-minute games will go in terms of like competitiveness, and I think that's been an issue for the All Star game is players don't try till the fourth quarter. So I'm interested to see how they manage the round robin games. I'm not sure how that'll play out. But I do like the US versus world. I think it's cool. I'm interested to see if we do more non-US players in the future. But I like where it's headed, and the All-Star game's been a rough watch in the last 5 years, I would say. So something needed to change, and let's see how it pans out this year.
I think the shorter games were designed to almost increase the competitive level of it. Because if you have a standard length game and a team's up by 20 or 25 points in the third quarter, yeah, the players are going to be done trying by the time the second half starts. Whereas with these 12-minute games, if a team goes up by 20 really quickly, it's all right. The game's ending soon. Another one will be underway. Maybe that will be more competitive. It's just not placing all your eggs in one basket, hoping that game stays close, will hopefully provide at least one game among the three that will be competitive at the end of the day. I think that's the goal that the NBA was trying to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. And hopefully that plan works because, again, a lot of these players.
It has been a rough watch.
Yeah, it's been a rough watch. And a lot of these players, rightfully so, care more about their health and the rest of their team's season than the All-Star game. And I totally understand that. And most of these guys come from teams that are, really good and have championship aspirations. So I think their priorities are in the right place. And I just think there needs to be more incentives for them to the All-Star game is supposed to be about the fans. It's supposed to be about getting the best players in one place to showcase, the greatness of the NBA as a whole. And I think the night should be for the fans and not about the players. So I think Adam Silver, to your point, has done what he can to help improve that.
And that's a tip of the hat to him. I mean, he can't do it himself. It's up to the players at some point to take it upon themselves to play with more effort. Before we get into our predictions, I did have a little bit of injury criteria with mine. Most teams have played between 23 to 25 games at this point of the season. So I did not pick any players from my All-Star team that did not play at least 15 games. So someone like LeBron James, for example. LeBron is not going to miss the All-Star game if he wants to play, right? The NBA would lose so much viewership without him. It would be stupid. If he wants to play in the All-Star game, he will play. However, LeBron has not played 15 games this year. And, it's up for debate as to whether he's even been at an all-star level this year. But regardless, I don't have LeBron in my all-stars. A more notable player that I do not have in my all-stars is Victor Wembanyama, who I picked to win MVP, but I don't have him as an all-star. So you tell me what that means. Again, like LeBron, if Wemby is healthy and he wants to play in the all-star game, he will. I'm not saying he's going to miss it, and he's indisputably one of the best 24 players in the league. But he's only played 12 games this year, which is under my 15-game criteria. So as a result, I don't have Wemby in my All-Stars. So just a couple disclaimers, wanted to get that out of the way before we get into our lists.
Yeah, and as far as my list goes, I did not have any injury criteria when going through this, but I did factor in how good the player has played this year. So you'll see my list is comprised of in my opinion, who's been the best players based on the U.S. versus world format. East, West, I had to get a certain amount from each conference too, but my best players that fit that criteria, I have them in regardless of how many games they've played this year.
All right. I'll let you pick out what conference you're starting. You want to go with East or West?
Let's start with the East. I like that.
All right. We'll start with the East. Let's hear your 5 Eastern Conference starters.
Yeah, so back to Alex's point about positionless basketball. The East has a center problem this year. When I looked at the big men in the West, it was significantly easier to pick all-stars than the big men in the East. And for that reason, I have Giannis as my starting 5 for the Eastern Conference. I don't care that you're not going to – I know it's not East for West, but if it was and Giannis was starting at the 5, I don't care. I have Giannis starting at my 5. I think he's a lock for the All-Star game. He's a top 3 MVP candidate, and I don't think he should be a reserve either for the East. So he is going to be starting, for Team World, obviously, being from Greece. Then I have the 3 guards that I put 1 through 3 positions, again, like I said, are interchangeable, and that's Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, and Donovan Mitchell. I think all 3 of them have been absolutely insanely good this year, and I think they all deserve a starting spot on an all-star team. So I put all 3 of them in the starting lineup, even though they all play pretty much the same position. And then the 5th spot was really hard. I was between 2 players. And the guys I was between were Jalen Johnson and Franz Wagner. And this one was really tough for me because I think they are both really good players. And I gave the nod to Jalen Johnson strictly because I think what he's doing is just more well-rounded than Franz right now. And Franz did struggle in the early part of the season without, or when Paolo was playing, excuse me, and the Magic got off to a little bit of a slow start. I think Jalen Johnson's been great with and without Trae Young, and so that's why I gave him the nod over Wagner in the starting lineup. So that's my starting five. I've got Cade, Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Giannis, and Jalen Johnson.
We got 4 out of the 5 starters in the East the same, so we're in agreement for a lot of that. I mean, I'll be kind of repeating you verbatim with mine. I listed my players in order. I said position list, so I just listed them from most deserving and downwards. My most deserving Eastern Conference All-Star is Cade Cunningham, having a career best year, 28 points per game, nearly 10 assists a game for the Eastern Conference leading Pistons. I don't think there's much to dispute there. Cunningham is deserved All-Star. Tyrese Maxey is the leading scorer in the Eastern Conference with 32 points per game. Giannis is doing Giannis things. I mean, he's Giannis. I don't really need to explain much more. Giannis has only played 17 games or so this year. So he was very close to the injury bubble, and he is expected to miss another month because of a calf injury that he suffered yesterday. So, I mean, Giannis, with the injuries might come into factor when it comes time to actually vote for the All-Stars, considering he's going to miss another month. But for the sake of this exercise, he's played in over 15 games. He's good for this list. Giannis is still an All-Star. And then Donovan Mitchell, right behind Tyrese Maxey at 31 points per game. The Cavs have kind of dropped off. They have a bit of a disappointing start to the season. I think they're the 8th seed in the East. But Mitchell is having a career best scoring year. It's not his fault that the Cavs have dropped off. The last All-Star starter that I had, and I was between 2 completely different players. I was between Jalen Brunson and Jaylen Brown for this last spot. And I ended up going with Jaylen Brown because the Celtics have very quietly snuck up their way to 3rd in the Eastern Conference. They've jumped the Raptors, they've jumped the Magic, they've jumped the Heat. And that is in large part credit due to Jaylen Brown, who's putting up 29 points per game, 6 rebounds a game, and 5 assists per game, all career highs without Jason Tatum. He is showing that he can be the number 1 option in an offense. That, you know, him earning the largest contract in NBA history was not overpaying a second option, that he has the capability to be a first option, and I think that's going to get rewarded with an all-star starting selection.
Yeah, no, Jaylen Brown, I mean, I'll get to him a little bit later. He's definitely an all-star this year, and he's definitely a guy that I could see getting the starting nod because of the Celtics and what he's done this year, and we've talked about him a lot in the offseason about how excited we were to see him play, and he's been very good this year for Boston, so I don't hate that pick at all. I don't hate that pick at all.
All right, let's get on to the reserves for the Eastern Conference. You got 7 spots available. Let's see who you have.
Yeah, so originally when I did my list, I only had 6 reserves from the East and I had 8 from the West. So one of these guys I had to add in just based on, the rules and whatnot. So I'll start with the 2 guys you mentioned, Jalen Brunson and Jaylen Brown. They headline my reserves, as well as Franz Wagner, who I cut from the starting lineup for Jalen Johnson. I think those 3 are definite all-stars this year, and I expect them to make the team one way or the other. As I mentioned earlier, the big man problem for the East is real, and the only 2 I would consider bigs other than Giannis that I had making it are Jalen Duren and Evan Mobley. So I think both of them deserve it, but I couldn't justify putting them in over a guy like Jalen Johnson, I think, in the starting 5. So I have them in my reserves. That leaves 2 spots left. One spot is to a guy who I think's been absolutely incredible this season, and that is Josh Giddey. I think he is definitely an all-star this year, and I expect him to be one of the 8 members on the Team World side this year. I think he's definitely going to get on that team, probably as a bench player for that team, but still I think he has played his way onto that roster. And then lastly, this is the guy that I had to put in just based on the rules, and it's really a flip-flop for me. It was between the 2 Raptors, Ingram or Barnes. I think both of them have been playing equally as good this year, and I think it's a coin flip. I wrote down Scotty Barnes because I think he does more on the defensive side of the ball. But I think for an all-star game, I think Brandon Ingram would be more exciting to watch. So I think you could pick or choose whichever one you want. But I'll pick Scotty Barnes because I think he's the better overall player. But with the all-star voting and how it is, I'm not sure which one of them would get in. But that's my 7 East reserves.
Again, we share a lot of the same reserves. We had one starter flip-flopped, and then we have, I think, one player that we disagree on as an all-star. But other than that, I think they're all the same. Brunson, as I said, is leading off my reserves. Knicks are the 2nd seed in the East, about where they're expected to be. Brunson's putting up 28 points a game, about what he's expected to do. He's just on par with expectations. He's not playing out of this world. He's not disappointing, and Brunson is going to be an all-star level player for as long as he continues to do this. Next up, I have Josh Giddey, who, as you said, is having a phenomenal start to the year, averaging a near triple-double with 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. The Bulls have dropped off significantly since their quick start to the year, but Giddey's play has not been the reason for their drop-off. So I think as long as the Bulls can still remain in the playoff picture, I think Giddey will get in the All-Star game. And deservedly so. Jalen Johnson, another first-time All-Star I have coming out of the East. Another player averaging a near triple-double, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists a game. He's really stepped up in the absence of Trae Young and shown that he can actually be the centerpiece that the team builds around, making Trae Young a potential trade candidate. Will they do that? It'll be interesting to find out. But Jalen Johnson, in the midst of a career-best year, he was probably going to make an All-Star game last year if he didn't get injured. So nice to see him break through this year and get that position. Next up, Jalen Duren. His individual stats are not great. 19 points, 12 rebounds a game. However, he is the starting center, a walking double-double threat for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference right now. And I think that the number 1 seed deserves to have 2 All-Stars. I think that's just a fair rule to have. So Duren, as the 2nd best player on the Pistons, gets his first All-Star selection as well. And then I have Franz Wagner, who after the Magic kind of got off to a slow start and Banchero went down, a lot of us kind of jumped off the Magic bandwagon, but they have rightened the ship since then. They've gone 13-6 since their 1-4 start, and Wagner has been a large part of reason to that, averaging 23 points. Now, we'll have to see if he can maintain that with Banchero back. And Wagner is expected to miss 2 weeks with an injury he suffered in last night's game. Something else that might play into his All-Star consideration down the road. But as of right now, Franz is safely in. That leaves me down with 2 spots with 4 players left. I was contemplating between Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Norman Powell, and Evan Mobley. Mobley I eliminated because he's not having a career best year. His numbers are largely all the same as last year, and the Cavs are straight up disappointing. They were the 1 seed last year, and Mobley got one of the last All-Star places. Now, as the 8th seed, I don't know if there's going to be room for him on the roster since his numbers have not increased. And Norman Powell was my last elimination. I have both Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes making the All-Star game. Powell was tough to eliminate. The real reason I went with the 2 Raptors is because I think Powell's role is going to decrease now that Tyler Hero is back healthy and playing again for the Heat. So I just don't think Powell's numbers are going to be sustainable. And Ingram and Barnes are the 2 leaders of one of the early season surprises of the Toronto Raptors. They're both averaging 20 points a game. Ingram's the leading scorer, but Barnes is the jack of all trades. They've both been integral to the success of the Raptors, so I think both of them deserve to be rewarded with an All-Star appearance.
Yeah, like I said, I already mentioned the Raptors players. I think either one of them could make this team, if not both, like you mentioned. And to your point on Mobley, a guy who I think would have taken his spot for sure if he stayed healthy is Bam Adebayo. I thought Bam had a great start to the year, and I think if he wasn't hurt, that he would be a candidate to take Mobley's spot as well. And then just a couple other honorable mentions I had in the East. How about Michael Porter Jr.? I mean, why is he an all-star level player this year? I mean, that guy...
Because he empty stats.
I know, which is why I didn't put him on the team, and the Nets stink. But he is playing like an all-star. Like, let's just acknowledge that. But they are a little bit of empty stats. And then another guy who's been very good, particularly earlier on in the year, was Nikola Vucevic. I thought he was playing like an all-star the first couple weeks of the season. I think he's definitely dipped down, and Giddey is the better option on the Bulls team. But I think those are a couple guys that, if they made the roster, I would not, be shocked or I would not be disappointed because I think they have had a very good start to the year.
Yeah, Vooch had like a week where he hit 2 game winners in the same week. So he got off to a great start to the season, but the Bulls' slide down the standings has coincided with a slide in Vooch's play. So, he got a great start to the season, but I think the Bulls kind of falling back down to earth is going to prevent them from getting a second one. Giddey, I think you have to put him in. He's averaging a near triple-double on over 20 points a game. He's got to be included.
Yeah, absolutely. Giddey's a no-brainer for me to make this roster.
Let's get on to the Western Conference, and this one was a lot more competitive for me. A lot more deserving players from the West and the East, I feel. It was a lot harder leaving some of these players out than it was Norman Powell and Evan Mobley, for example, but it was a competitive list. I'm not sure if we'll have the same names for this one, so let's hear 5 starters in the West.
The starters for the West for me was the easiest decision. The East was like, I had to pick and choose positions and guards and whatnot. This was easy. I went 1 through 5 down the list, and I do have a couple extra big men in here, but I think these have been the clear-cut best 5 players in the West this year. Starting at the top with Shea and Luka in my backcourt, enough said. I mean, those are the 2 best guards in the league. Luka is, when you watch Luka Doncic play, I don't think he misses. And then when you watch Shea play, he only plays 3 quarters and his team's up 30. So both those guys to me are in no-brainer. Enough said about that. Then I have Jokic and Şengün at the 4-5. Again, they have been amazing this year. Jokic in particular has really picked up his game in the last month or so. I think he got off to a slower start and people were like, what's wrong with Jokic? Is he even trying? And now he's back to being Jokic. And Şengün, the Rockets have been very good this year, and I did not expect Şengün to be the number 1 option. He clearly is the number 1 option on that team, and I think that will continue, which is why I have him in the starting lineup. Now, my 5th and final player, as I mentioned earlier, I had no injury criteria. And before Wembanyama got hurt, I think he was a shoo-in to be an all-star starter this year. So he rounds out my starting lineup for the West. I understand why you won't have him on your list. I understand why the NBA would keep him off the list if he is still hurt. But like you said, if the fans want to see Victor Wembanyama play. And he was one of the few guys that actually tried in the All-Star game last year. So I think he's a lock to make the All-Star team, and if he does make the All-Star team, I don't see a world where he's not starting either. So that's my 5. Shea, Luka, Wemby, Şengün, Jokic. I think that was easy 5 for me.
Yeah. I don't have any disagreements with those 5. I don't have Wemby on my 5, like I said before we started. That's because of injury criteria, but if he is healthy, he is undisputably an all-star level player. He will be an all-star starter. The only thing that kept me off is injuries. And yeah, I hope he is healthy for the All-Star game. Like you said, he's one of the few players that did try last year. And the All-Star game will just be much more entertaining as a whole if we get to see Victor Wembanyama in it. So hoping for good health for Wemby the rest of the year. But with that being said, he's not on my All-Star list. 4 out of the 5, we have the same. I mean, Luka and Shea, again, 2 undisputable guards that are in it. Shea, like you said, is averaging 30 points a game in 3 quarters. Luka is averaging 35 points a game, which is unreal. Jokic is averaging not just a triple-double, a 29.12 rebound, 11 assist triple-double. He is clearing triple-double territory. He's opening entirely new statistical clubs where he's the only member in it. Jokic is having arguably one of the greatest statistical seasons, if not the greatest statistical season in NBA history right now. What he's doing is amazing and definitely worthy of an All-Star game. Şengün is my 4th starter. Durant is still the leading scorer in terms of points per game for the Rockets, but the Houston Rockets offense revolves around Şengün. He is the leading ball handler. He's the lead playmaker for the Houston Rockets. He is averaging 23 points a game, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, taking a big leap for the 3rd or 4th place Houston Rockets. Definitely a worthy first-time All-Star starter. I think this will be his 2nd All-Star game. Now, instead of Wemby, my fifth All Star starter is none other than undrafted sensation Austin Reeves. And I cannot believe I am saying Austin Reeves is an All Star, much less as an All Star starter. But look at the numbers 28 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 7 assists a game for the number 2 seed in the West. And when Luka is injured, when Luka's not playing, Austin Reeves averages 40 a game. That's not an exaggeration. He averages 40 points a game when Luka Doncic is not playing. Give this man an all-star starter. Come on, that's unbelievable. Give him an all-star starter. Give him the most improved player award. Austin Reeves. What a start to the year he's having.
Yeah, Austin Reeves is amazing. And I'm glad you gave him the recognition there in the starting lineup because I think I agree. If I didn't have Wemby on my list, I think I would have given the nod to AR as the 5th starter in the Western Conference. And again, this goes to back to what we were talking about earlier with LeBron. One of the reasons why he didn't score 10 points against Toronto with Luka out is because Austin Reeves decided to drop 44. So, I mean, Austin Reeves has been really good this year. I mean, I think I would have had him as an all-star starter in the East, and I think
undisputably.
Yeah, like I think he's been just as good as Donovan Mitchell this year. Like, is that crazy to say that he's been just as good as Donovan Mitchell this year?
Mitchell's stats are better, but Reeves' team not only has a significantly better record, but Reeves only has worse stats because he plays alongside one of the greatest scorers of all time in Luka.
Like, when Reeves is the number one option, you can see he's playing just as good as I think a guy like Donovan Mitchell in the East.
When Reeves is the number one option, he's playing as good as anybody in the league.
Yeah.
Like, is that crazy to say? Like,
no.
Genuinely.
No, and he's been fun to watch, and I'm glad he's getting the recognition. So I'll kick off my reserves with Austin Reeves, right? I mean, he's amazing, and I have him as my first reserve. Next up, a couple names here. Edwards, Steph, KD, and James Harden. I think those 4 guys are undoubtedly all-stars this year. There is no all-star game without Steph and KD. I think that's just kind of penciled in at this point. And they, unlike LeBron, have actually been playing good this year when healthy. So, no diss to LeBron, but AR stepping up has been amazing. Edwards has really picked up his game in the last month or so. And again, the two-way capabilities and just the personality that Ant is, I think he's, again, all-star level player. No doubt in my mind. And then James Harden, we talked about him joining the top 10 points list at the start of the show. He has been the best player on the Clippers this year on a team that has Kawhi Leonard and Zubac. James Harden's been their best player this year. I don't understand that really at all, but James Harden has been amazing, and I think he deserves one final All-Star appearance, so I'm giving him the nod here. Now, I have 2 spots left, and originally I had 3 guys in here, and I had Devin Booker, I had De'Aaron Fox, and I had Amen Thompson. And unfortunately, I'm giving Amen Thompson the cut just because I thought it was hard to have 3 guys on one team make the All-Star roster. Now, you might be saying De'Aaron Fox has only played, a handful of games and whatnot, but De'Aaron Fox without Wemby has been very good for the Spurs. And I think he has established himself as the best guard on their team. I think a lot of people thought Stephon Castle would be better than De'Aaron Fox, but I personally was disrespecting Fox at the beginning of the year with how good the Spurs looked without him. I forgot how good De'Aaron Fox was. He's an all-star level player in the NBA. And so I'm giving him the nod because of what he's done without Wemby. He's proven that he is, again, a capable number one option on a team to lead them at least to the postseason. And then Devin Booker, again, similar to Ant Edwards, the personality's there with Devin Booker. People want to see a guy like him play in the All-Star game, especially after what he just did in the Olympics. And he's an all-star level player. Like, just don't overthink it, right? Like, if you're taking Amen Thompson or Devin Booker, you're taking Devin Booker. So I just think when I was comparing Amen Thompson to the other 2, and then throw on the fact that I already have KD and Şengün in, I unfortunately had to replace Amen Thompson with Scotty Barnes. But I originally thought in my head that Amen, if there were no East versus West, I would have Amen over Scotty Barnes make the cut for me. But unfortunately, the rules are the rules, and I cropped my roster to fit that. So we have for my reserves, Ant Edwards, Steph, KD, Harden, Austin Reeves, Booker, and Fox.
De'Aaron Fox was a surprising name. That's actually somebody I didn't even consider for All-Star. I looked it up while we were talking. He has only played in 14 games. That is one short of my criteria. So even if I had thought of him, he wouldn't have made the list. However, Fox has been averaging 25 points a game and 7 assists a game. That is definitely All-Star worthy numbers to be able to keep that up even when Wembanyama returns. But I do feel incredibly validated hearing you talk about how good Fox is, considering I was very high on the De'Aaron Fox hype train and the Spurs as a whole all offseason. So I do not have a San Antonio Spur in the All-Star game because of the various injuries they've suffered. However, hearing you have two of them after bashing me all summer for being high, I'm feeling pretty validated after that. So, with that being said, we'll get into my Western Conference reserves, which I'm leading off with Anthony Edwards, who I was debating between him and Austin Reeves for that last starting spot. He's averaging the same amount of points as Austin Reeves, 28. A little bit less rebounds and assists, and his team is a little bit lower in the standings, which is why I gave Reeves a starting spot instead of Ant. But Ant has been his normal self. He's an elite scorer. He's stepped up in the playmaking department a little bit, and definitely, still a worthy All-Star. Next up, two legends of the game, Steph and KD, who are both definitely on the come down at this point in their careers, but still performing at a very, very high level. Kevin Durant's Rockets are third in the Western Conference, while Stephen Curry is still averaging 28 a game. Now, Steph has only played in 16 games, so he was another player that is very close to my injury threshold, and that could be something to watch as All-Star voting gets more serious down the road. But Steph barely making the cutoff in terms of games played, so he's good on the roster. Him and KD are reserves. Next up, and this might be a bit controversial. I want to know what you think about this. I have Chet Holmgren. Now, Chet, his numbers are not spectacular. He's only averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists a game. But the Oklahoma City Thunder are 23-1, right? And it's not just because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There are a lot of other players on the roster contributing. Even without their supposed second-best player and their all-star last year, Jalen Williams, they still got off to this great start. So who's the second-best player on this historically good roster that should be rewarded? It's Chet Holmgren. His numbers aren't great, yes, but he doesn't need to be an elite scorer to help his team win. He does everything else that his team needs to win at an elite level. He helps protect the paint. He's a good pick-and-pop threat. And he plays the role the Thunder needs him to play to perfection. And because of that, they've gotten off to this great start, and I think he should be rewarded. I said in the Eastern Conference that I think the 1 seed should always have 2 All-Stars, so I'm sticking to that rule for the Western Conference. I have Chet as an All-Star. Next up, I got Jamal Murray finally making his first All-Star appearance. Jamal, for a while, has been probably recognized as the best player to never make an All-Star game. He's always started off regular season slowly, whether it's because he was recovering from injury or he was playing in an international event and didn't get a lot of off-season rest. But this start of the season, it seems like Jamal Murray has finally put it together, averaging 25 points a game, 7 assists a game for the number 2 seed in the West. His pairing with Nikola Jokic was already historically great. Now it's simply become unguardable. We're going to have to start putting Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in conversation with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Shaq, and Kobe. And I'm not exaggerating. That is how good this two-man pairing is together. And it is about time that Jamal Murray gets rewarded with his first All-Star appearance. That leaves me with 2 spots remaining, and I was between 4 players. I was between Devin Booker, Denny Abdia, Lauri Markkanen, and James Harden. Now, as much as I wanted to include James Harden, I cannot get over how disappointing the Clippers have been. And it's not James Harden's fault. A lot of it is because Kawhi has been injured and the rest of the roster has underperformed. But this team has been so disappointing, so underwhelming, and Harden's had some great games, but his individual numbers, his season averages are not all that great. His consistency hasn't been there. And as a result, I have him as a very difficult All-Star snub. I also did not include Lauri Markkanen for a lot of the same reasons. The Jazz aren't necessarily disappointing. They are tanking, and he has no expectation to win. He's kind of in the same conversation. Michael Porter Jr. putting up empty stats for an uncompetitive team, so I didn't include Laurie. Denny Avdia, first time All Star I have, averaging 26 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists for the Trailblazers, who are currently the 10th seed in the West. I think those are good numbers. He kind of took off last year after the All Star break, and that elite play has kind of continued into this season. And I gave Devin Booker my last spot for the Western Conference All Stars, averaging 25, 4, and 7. Booker has led the Suns to, I think it's safe to say, a surprising start to the year. I think a lot of us expected the Suns to take a step back after they lost Kevin Durant. But Booker and the core pieces pillared around him are somehow scavenging out wins. They're currently in the playoff picture, avoiding the play-in altogether, which, again, not many of us expected the Phoenix Suns to do that. So Booker deserves to be rewarded. Like you said, a lot of us grew to like Devin Booker after what he did in the Olympics, kind of being the dirty work, the glue guy of the team, while the three All-Stars, the three LeBron, Steph, KD, while they kind of carried the scoring load, Devin Booker was kind of the gritty, grindy guy, which we've never seen him do that throughout his career. So it was really cool to see him play that role, and I think he gained a lot of fans that way. I think he gained a lot of appreciation for his career that way, and I think that's just going to help his All-Star consideration, especially when he's having seasons like this. So those are my Western Conference reserves.
Yeah. Good list. I definitely had Chet and Avdia in my honorable mentions, so those aren't guys that I didn't think about. 2 takeaways though. One, it sounds like you have way more than 8 Team World players, and you didn't even include Wembanyama. So I'm interested to see who would be left out in that situation.
Well, I have 10 Team World players I counted between my 2 rosters, but it wouldn't be leaving people out. It would be Adam Silver picks 2 U.S. players, so there would be 26 total All-Stars instead of 24. That would be the difference. And if that's the case, just pick Harden, Norman Powell, or Evan Mobley. Just get 2 of the 3 American honorable mentions that I listed, and that'll be good. But yeah, there can be 10 World. There could be 15 World this All-Star game, and then Adam Silver would pick, I don't know, 7 American replacements. The numbers will add up eventually to be 16 and 8, one way or another. I guess we'll see how it plays out. But there can be more than 8 World for the All-Star game.
Yeah, I just didn't know what your thought process was behind that. And then Chet. I wanted to talk about Chet because you asked about Chet Holmgren. And other than team success, I don't really understand how you could leave off a guy like Evan Mobley and put a guy like Chet, other than team success. Again, I understand the Thunder are way better than the Cavs, but there's nothing that Chet Holmgren does better than Evan Mobley from a individual perspective, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. I'm not saying Chet Holmgren is a better individual player than Evan Mobley, but look at where these 2 teams are. Look at the roles they're playing on their team. Mobley is a second option behind Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs were supposed to be among the Eastern Conference elite, if not the number 1 seed. Instead, the Cavs are 14-11 and currently sitting 8th in the East. That is objectively a disappointing season. So it's tough to reward someone like Evan Mobley, who he himself is not having a career best year. Mobley's numbers are very similar to last year, where his team was the best team in the East. This year, his team is not the best team in the East, and he hasn't improved at all. So it doesn't feel right to reward someone like that. Now you look at the Thunder. Chet Holmgren, the second option behind SGA. The Thunder expect to be among the Western Conference best, if not the best. What are they doing? They're off to a historically great start to the year at 23-1. So that is the difference between Mobley and Holmgren. And the All-Star game is very individual based, right? I don't typically take team success into account when I'm picking out my All-Stars, especially because this is the midpoint of the year. I think team success is a lot more important when talking about all NBA teams at the end of the year. But this isn't just team success. This is a historical 23-1 start to the year. Right? And I think that, at the end of the day, that needs to be recognized and rewarded in some way.
Yeah, I understand that. But in my mind, I just think the All-Star game should solely be about individual performance. It's about getting the best players on the court. And when I compare a guy like Evan Mobley to Chet, I think there's levels to Evan Mobley's game that Chet Holmgren has not unlocked yet. And to me, when you said a name like Chet, and I remembered that you left off a guy like Mobley, that comparison immediately crept in my mind, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. I think team success is important. Again, I understand that. But in the All-Star game, I think the fans want to see the best 24 players, and I don't think Chet Holmgren is anywhere close to that in terms of when you're looking at the league as a whole.
See, I agree with that, but also with that argument, Lauri Markkanen has been undisputably one of the best 24 players in the league this year. He's on the Jazz, and the Jazz aren't good, and he's not going to make the All-Star game because of that, which sucks. But Lauri Markkanen has had a career best year. He has been outstanding. And even you can make the same argument for Michael Porter Jr. His team has sucked, but the lead Michael Porter Jr. has taken, he could very well be one of the best 24 players in the league this year. He's not going to make it because his team sucks. And so I think, yes, to an extent, it should just be the 24 best players. But when you're kind of stuck between two players or you're trying to find something to differentiate them, team success is what'll do that. And the Oklahoma City Thunder's historic start to the year, and I just kind of have a rule that I think the 1 seed always should have 2 All-Stars, and Chet Holmgren is the player on the Thunder besides Shea most deserving of an All-Star this year.
Yeah, and the other argument I had against Chet, you mentioned you didn't add Norman Powell because you expected Tyler Hero to eat into his production. I expect Jalen Williams to eat into Chet's production as well. So I think that argument is another reason why I could leave Chet off the roster.
And that's something I did think of, but I don't think the addition of Jalen Williams is going to hurt the team and their record at all. I'm rewarding Chet almost because of his team and not because of an individual performance, which I know goes against what we should be voting the All-Star of, but at a certain point, I just look at 23-1 and I'm like, damn, this team has more than one All-Star. You don't have one All-Star and start the season off 23-1. That does not make sense in my head. They needed a second one.
Yeah, and I'm just All-Star should be about the best players, and that's just where my head's at.
It should be, but 23-1 is 23-1, man. We may never see a start like this again. This is unreal.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We may never see a start like this again, but that's a lot to do with the team, not just the greatness of Shea and to your not the all-star talent of Chet Holmgren. I just don't see him as an all-star at this point in his career.
Well, we'll have to see how it plays out. All-stars will be voting will start at the end of December, and they will be updated on a week-by-week basis up until the middle of February when the rosters and the all-star break will be revealed, and we'll get to see how the North format plays out. So should be exciting to see how this race for these 24, potentially more all-star spots plays out. With that being said, we'll get into our last segment. Max, I know you have something planned for me, so I'll let you take it away from here.
Yeah, so for the closing segment today, we have all-star appearances higher or lower. So we did this earlier, I believe, with total career points, where Alex would give me a player, and I would have to guess, higher or lower total career points. Today we're doing all-star game appearances by all-time legends. I've got 8 names on the list here. Alex, are you ready?
Let's get it. I'm excited for this.
All right, so first name up, we have Bill Russell, who was in 12 all-star game appearances. That's going to be the first name for Alex. Okay. So Bill Russell, 12 all-star game appearances. Alex, I want to know, do you think that Kevin Durant has more or less all-star appearances than Bill Russell?
Oof. See, Durant, I feel like he has more than 12, but I also know Durant has missed multiple years and multiple All-Star games due to injury. So I don't know if that's what's going. Let's see. Durant got drafted in 2007, so he's been in the league 18 years. I think he's been an All-Star for more than 12 of the 18 years. I'm going to say more.
That's correct. Kevin Durant just squeaks out with 13 All-Star game appearances.
Okay.
One more than Bill Russell. Way to trust your gut there. Next name up. Does Shaquille O'Neal have more or less All-Star game appearances than Kevin Durant?
Oof. See, Shaq was dominant, but I also know Shaq had a shorter prime than most stars. After he left the Lakers, he wasn't really an all-star caliber player. So I'm going to say less than 13. I don't think Shaq had
That's
a 13-year on
correct.
prime.
Shaq had the same amount as Bill Russell, which is 12, so one less than Kevin Durant. So Alex is
Start making me
right.
live on the edge
He's
here.
right there. Next up, we have Magic Johnson, more or less than Shaq.
I'm the same reasoning that I have for Shaq. Magic, I mean, great player when he did play, but he also had to retire really early on because he got AIDS, which tough. But
Yeah.
I'm going to say less.
That's
I'm going to say less than 12.
Alex 3 for 3 so far, with Magic Johnson coming in at
All right.
11 All-Star game appearances, one less than Shaq. So again, this list is very tight. I mean, like All-Star game appearances, it's not separated by thousands like points was. It's separated by one or two, like because of how great these players were.
Okay,
So
yeah,
so
I'll give you that.
so Magic Johnson at 11. Next up, Dirk Nowitzki, more or less All-Star game appearances than Magic Johnson.
Dirk played for 20 years, and Dirk really never really had any serious injuries throughout his career. Nothing that would have taken him out for an All-Star game. He also had that one at the in his last year where even though he wasn't playing at an All-Star level, he was still named an All-Star. So I'm going to say more. I feel like Dirk has played for 20 years. He had to have been an All-Star for more than 11.
That's correct, and this is the widest margin by far so far. Dirk with 14 All-Star game appearances, the most of anybody that we've mentioned so far, with 3 more than Magic Johnson. So yes, good one there. Next up, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. Does he have more or less All-Star game appearances than Dirk with 14?
I'm pretty sure before LeBron James that Kobe had the record for most All-Star game appearances. So I'm going to say more.
All right, that's correct that he has more than Dirk. But unfortunately, you're wrong about the record. That would be held by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before LeBron.
Okay.
So there you go. But Kobe does have more than Dirk. One more. 15 All-Star game appearances for Kobe Bryant. Next name up, we have the GOAT, Michael Jordan. More or less All-Star game appearances than Kobe Bryant.
This is actually close because, okay, Jordan didn't make it as a rookie. And in his third year, he broke his leg and missed most of the year. He didn't make it his last 2 years with the Wizards. And he also retired from the game of basketball for 2 years. So with all that in mind, I do not think Michael Jordan made 15 All-Star games. I'm going to say less than Kobe.
That would be correct. Michael Jordan coming in with 13 All-Star game appearances.
Man.
Alex is perfect. And with the final one, based on something he already said, I think he knows the answer to this one. Does Michael Jordan have more or less All-Star game appearances than LeBron James?
LeBron James has more All-Star game appearances.
Correct.
That's the perfect run?
That's perfect run. Alex with an 8 for 8 there, with LeBron holding the record with 20. Wow. Kareem in second place with 18. Kobe, like you said, in third place with 15. So Kobe's right there. But Kareem slides in between LeBron and Kobe Bryant, as mentioned. But Alex, that's following up my blind ranking on last episode with that performance is just stellar ball knowledge from the lads. Stellar ball knowledge.
We're on an absolute heater right now. We got TakeOver on.
Yeah, we do, and we're looking to keep it going throughout the holiday season. So yeah, very exciting stuff.
Yeah. I thought that would be harder. Honestly, I don't know why. I don't know. I thought it would be players like Blake Griffin who they were good, but they also only have like 3 All-Star games. Or like Andre Drummond has more than Blake Griffin. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, you thought I was gonna stump you. No, they were all-time greats.
Some trick ones.
No, I think I tried to trick you. I think with just how close the margin was between all those guys. Like it could have gone either way. They were off by 1 or 2. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, no complaints. I'll take a perfect run when I can get it.
Absolutely.
And so that'll wrap up this episode of the Hoopers Lounge podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know if you guys agree with our all-star predictions down below, or comment any changes you guys would make to our rosters. And yeah, we look forward to seeing how the race is going to play out. Christmas time's coming up. That's perfect NBA season slate, and it should be a good time. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, peace out, guys. Don't forget to vote for your favorite All-Stars. I know I'll be voting this year for some guys that I think
Oh, of course.
deserve it. So don't forget to do that, and we'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace out.
Peace.